want to begin at Article 1 of the Constitution, that all sovereignty rests with the people. And through the delegated authority of the people, a republic forms a government. The reason Article 1 of the Constitution is the beginning, it is where political authority begins or rests. Now, Kenya being a multi-party democracy, it means as well that political parties are created as vehicles to capture the sovereignty of the people in a delegated manner through general elections. Now, what the problem of Kenya has been before the 2010 constitution, when Kenya was a one-party, the jure one-party state under KANU, was that the multi-party democracy or competitive politics was barred by law. So the question and the debate discussion today, the bar is whether or not the 2010 constitution has succeeded in improving how the delegated authority of the people is handled, and whether in that exercise, parties and leaders are doing the country any better or worse. Now, just quickly to the 90s, when the multi-party was new, the first phase was actually to entrench more and more, because so many parties were registered, multiple parties, so that there were 10, 20 parties competing. And of the main ones, they all divided the main vote, including even within regions. So you are DP competing with Ford Asili of Kenneth Matiba, and you had Wamalwa Kijana running on Ford K, and those were 3 Fords, and so on and so on. And Moi won with 34% of the vote because the parties were never able to come together. And that continued up to 2002, when the Rainbow Alliance or movement was formed, if you want to call it the first coalition. But in that government that Kagwanja mentioned he served in, a lot of people felt that Mwai Kibaki, good as he was, as a president in terms of historical terms, the leadership or political conduct of the NAC government left many in that coalition feeling unhappy. So many other issues were brought up towards the 2010 constitution. And after that, the Political Parties Act was amended to bring up pre-election coalitions and post-coalition election coalitions. Has the country gained at all from these pre-election coalitions that are meant to be deposited at the political party registrar so that people are aware of what they are voting for? I argue to this forum that that has not been the case. That the makeup of both the Azimio la Umoja and of the Kenya Kwanza coalition have been changed and altered against the democratic exercise of the people of Kenya in the general election of 2022. So that today we are dealing with a post situation that in my view is unconstitutional, illegal, null and void ab initio. And what the issue will now be is whether or not there is any ability of the political class to be allowed to safeguard themselves. Because in the conduct of the political parties as they are now, they become parties that are not exercising the manifestos or the delegation of authority given to them by the people, but they are unilaterally conducting themselves for the sake of power and power alone. And because I do not want to take a very long time to speak, I want to bring up the issue that has just been brought up, for example, the AUC. The AUC was presented as a Kenyan quest, that somehow the Right Honorable Raila Odinga is standing in the AUC in order that Kenya is represented and should be represented at the continental level. But what is fast unfolding is that it was a political deal that was made between ODM and the Kenya Kwanza regime element that includes William Ruto's UDA. And that because of that failure, they have to accommodate Raila and ODM further in order to achieve political goals of 2027. Why am I raising this issue? I'm raising it because as long as there is no constitutional mechanism to regulate how these leaders and how these parties conduct themselves, then what we are basically doing is deceiving the electorate every time we have a general election. And I can tell you that the parties as have gone on, they have become led by the leader. I think Kagwanja said ODM has been the longest of Raila. But I want to tell Kagwanja respectively, that's because the leader is 84 years old. I mean, if you have been in politics as long as Raila, it would not be an accident that you have the oldest political party. It's not because he's the best politician or the most able, as ODM would like us to believe. It is because he's the oldest by far. And I raise that because when I say oldest, I mean, many years back, you can look at the age of our leaders by the time they bow out. The age of Mwai Kibaki when he bowed out and left the presidency. The age of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. The age of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. And so I want to say that in Africa, the succession of, and particularly in Kenya, the succession within political parties sometimes depends on the life of the party leader and how long he lives or does not live. Because even in Wamalwa Kijana, the changes in his party began only when he passed away. So I am saying that it is so individualized that once a political party has a political leader, it has no space for the people in between. Is whether this realignment that the political class is imagining, both I saw that at the Martha Karua launch, and I also see it in the rearrangement of Kenya Kwanza. I want to argue that maybe the next election of 2027, if my reading of the ground is correct, if my reading of the Gen Z is correct, this is going to be a rude shock and a rude awakening. There is going to be a rebellion against the status quo. It may not be entirely across the length and the breadth of all the politics, presidency, governor, but there will be a major element, percentage of change and surprises from the MCA all the way up to all the other seats up to the presidency. I believe there is going to be a shakeup that is going to go beyond the party, beyond the party leader, and it might begin to test the 2010 constitution in a better way and for the benefit of all other Kenyans.
Now the Luo Council has also endorsed him and endorsed now the alliance with Ruto as we speak. Could you tell us just briefly for the few years that you've known, please?
Well, first of all, that is total madness. But I just want to say the first thing about ODM because it's 20 years old. I'm happy Kagwanja is here. Maybe others who knew why in the Kibaki regime. The ODM party was given to me by Paul Mwite. And Paul Mwite had been sent by then Christopher Murungaro and Keraito Murungi because they want, Kalonzo Musyoka had taken off with the late minister Mutula Kilonzo with ODM Kenya. And they wanted to split the oranges. So they wanted somebody who Odinga would trust, and they picked me up. And I'm the one who took ODM to Odinga. But that is something I would like Odinga to confirm or deny. But now, 20 years on, what has happened, and I want to say this without any fear of contradiction, Raila Odinga should rest and retire from politics. I want to say that he's not the first one who clings on at 84. I mean, history is full of all these characters who never go. Even my friend, the great Kenneth Matiba, had to be pulled out of, Chester House by his children. They reached a point he could not leave Chester House. He just continued and continued. And the late Jaramogi Odinga, had the same issues that Raila is having of hanging on till death do us part. So I want to say that the ODM party is actually a sellout to the Kenyan people. Odinga began his politics as a Democrat, is a progressive individual. I heard him the other day at the Bombers of Kenya saying that Sakaja will be the candidate for Nairobi. Where did he allow Babu Owino or Timu Anyonyi or whoever wants the orange ticket to go to a primary and let the ODM members decide who is their candidate? That kind of behavior is what happens when parties become the property of individuals. So the ODM 20 years on, go to Luo Nyanza and look at all the friends of Odinga. If Anyang' Nyong was here, I would say so. They are all in the 70 years club. James Orengo, Professor Anyang' Nyong, Oburu Odinga, So all I am saying is that the ODM party is no longer a party of democracy or a party of progressive forces. It is a party of opportunism. Let's start with Raila Odinga from the time of NDP. From NDP, he went to bed with President Daniel Moi. From President Moi, that was not enough. He went to bed with the late Mwai Kibaki. That was not enough. He went to bed with Uhuru Kenyatta. That is not enough. He's now in bed with William Ruto. There is no reason for Raila Odinga to win elections. He is doing very well losing. In fact, I think Raila doesn't ever want to win any election because he just loses and he calls the winner and threatens them that you are not going to be able to govern. As we are speaking now, William Ruto is writing the fine print of the coalition government of Raila Odinga. So I must change and apologize to Kenyans because I played a big role, as you say, as a creator, enabler of Raila Odinga. I have been duped by Raila Odinga, and I agree that he is the biggest political manipulator Kenya has ever seen since independence. A man who has never been elected 5 times and now 6 times at the AU is wielding more power than any sitting president. He forced Mwai Kibaki to make him a prime minister. He forced Daniel Moi to make him Secretary General of KANU. And he actually put Uhuru and the country at loggerheads on the BBI initiative. And now as we speak, the broad-based government is an Odinga government. Is a bread-based government. So I want to say that as Kenya scholars study the history of the democratic movement and the contribution of Odinga, I tend to think because of the Gen Z movement of 25th of June of 2024, that the Odinga's history enigma is no longer going to be the case. I think he's going to rewrite his own history, and I think they will follow the same sword with William Ruto.
Asante sana kwa kutazama Wasos TV. Huyo amekuwa ni Tony Gachoka akimtupia vijembe Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, yani akimkemea vikali kuhusiana na tabia yake ya kuingia kwa uongozi kupitia mlango wa nyuma, akipeana mfano tu kutoka wakati wa Mwai Kibaki, Uhuru Kenyatta na sasa hivi akiingia katika serikali ya William Samoei Ruto. Tony Gachoka ameweza kuzungumza mambo mengi ambayo umeweza kuyasikia kwenye hiyo audio ambayo ilikuwa hapo kwenye X. So sijui na maoni gani kuhusiana na alichosema Tony Gachoka. Kama uko na maoni niachie hapo kwenye comment section. Kama hujasubscribe na kuomba uweze kusubscribe kwenye Wasos TV. Finya notification bell ndio wakati wote tunapata habari kama hii unakuwa mtu wa kwanza kuipata. Hadi wakati mwingine, na kutakia mchana mwema. Asante sana kwa wakati wako.